So you're looking for a new gaming PC. You have two options. Either you can go out and buy all the parts yourself and put something together, or you can go out and buy a pre-made PC like this one. Me personally, I like building things myself. It just feels great when the product is finished. But every once in a while, I get a budget build in here that just makes a lot of sense. This is the Acer Nitro N50. It's $850, and if I was to create this PC myself, it would cost about $775. Now that's $75 you're saving, but if you spend the extra $75, you're getting a warranty from Acer instead of separate warranties with each vendor you purchase each piece from. That's a lot better value in terms of peace of mind. If something goes wrong, you just send the entire system back as opposed to dealing with specific vendors. Now, $850 gets you an AMD quad-core Ryzen 5 2500X with an RX 580. For those of you unfamiliar with AMD, the RX 580 is equivalent to a GTX 1060, and the Ryzen 5 CPU is pretty close to an i5 8400. And the best part about it, because it's the X series, you can overclock it. Now, in terms of design, it's fairly simple. It's just a black and red PC. It's not that big, it's 14 pounds, and it doesn't take up much space. There's a lot worse black and red PCs to look at. This one is fairly simple with some grills on the side to allow ventilation to happen. And of course, you have a bunch of ports in the front. And then you have the Acer logo on top and kind of like a glossy feel. For ports on the front, you have your SD card slot, which is fantastic for creators. USB Type-C, this is obviously not Thunderbolt 3, and that's because this is an AMD system. USB 3.0, and of course, 2 audio jacks. On the back, you have 4 USB 2.0 ports, an RJ45 port, 2 more USB 3.1 ports, and then a row of your audio connections. Now on the bottom, you have the RX 580, you have an HDMI, and of course you have 3 display ports, so you can hook up more than 1 monitor to this. Now just to know, there is Wi-Fi capable, so if you want to connect it wirelessly, you can do that, and there's also Bluetooth installed here. In terms of expandability, there is some room for upgrades. As you can see here, we have the fan and the heat sink. It's a pretty big heat sink, so you can actually overclock this using the stock cooler on here. I wouldn't go crazy with it, but you can do it without the system overheating. You have 4 RAM slots. Right now, there's 8 gigabytes installed, but it is capable of being expanded up to 64. Right here is your RX 580. If ever down the road you want some more power, you can take this out and plop something inside of there instead. On the left-hand side, you have your 1 terabyte mechanical drive. My suggestion is swap it out immediately, or at least use it as your D drive, because this is probably the biggest bottleneck of the system in terms of speed. It really slows down the program's loading. Get an SSD, you'll see a huge difference in terms of performance. Also, you can't see it here on camera, but behind here, there's a slot for an M2 drive. So you can plop in an NVMe drive and really speed up that OS drive. And as you can see here, right as well, you have another HD drive, and in the front, you have that DVD writer. So when it comes to performance, very similar results to a system with the GTX 1060. The RX 580 is very capable of playing AAA titles with settings set to high at 1080p. For example, in Overwatch, which is a very well optimized game, I was getting insane frame rates the entire time. It plowed through it without any issues. Fortnite, I was able to keep the settings on epic with great frame rates and no frames dropped while playing. The only game I kind of had issues with was Call of Duty Blackout. For some reason, AMD GPUs are not well optimized for the game, and that's coming in an update in the near future. But in the meantime, I was still able to get 80 frames per second with settings set to medium. The only issue that I can really say is swap out that internal hard drive for an SSD. You'll see a huge difference in terms of fluidity. The other thing to note is fan noise. It's not a super duper quiet system. It's not insanely loud, but you can definitely hear the fans. In terms of heat, because the heat sink and fan is a good size, you're able to keep the CPU quite cool. And like I said before, you have a little bit of room to overclock the system. So that pretty much wraps up my review of the Acer Nitro N50. This is a budget build for $850, and for the price, you get some pretty good specs and of course some pretty good gameplay. Now the big question I have for you guys, would you rather build or buy if I gave you $850? I don't know. Sometimes it's nice just to have that peace of mind that if anything goes wrong, Acer's gonna cover everything inside of here. I'm happy to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already. Come talk to me on Discord if you have any questions. And I'll see you guys in the next video.